Today we're going to be going over the 3 most common excuses people use to not start a budget and how you can overcome each one of them. Excuse number 1 is, I don't know how to budget, so I might as well not try. That is not a good excuse because there are plenty of informational videos out there, including this one up here in this little card, as well as I'll leave it down in the description. That one explains how you can start your first budget. So all you need to do is learn how to do it. It's very, very simple to get started with a budget. All you're doing is you're writing down your income minus your expenses to figure out how much you have left over, which ideally you want it to be 0 or a positive number in order to have more money left over that you can budget for other things during the month. So if that's your number one reason why you don't start is because you don't know how to do it, be sure to check out my other videos. I will leave a link in the card as well as in the description box below. The second biggest excuse is that it never worked for you in the past. You tried it didn't work, so you gave up. Budgeting takes time to learn how to do it properly, as well as to find your groove and how it works best for you. A lot of times when I hear this excuse, it's coming from people who only tried it 1 month and that was all they did it, and maybe they stopped, maybe they tried it a second time, like many months down the road or a year down the road, they tried it again, only tried it for 1 month and then gave up again because they're like, every single time I try this, it doesn't work for me. Well, that is because you have not given it enough time. I recommend about 3 months of actual attempting in a row of attempting to make a budget and stick to the budget. I check in on my budget every day in order to show that I am committed and I am going to be intentional with it. You can check in once a week. That is part of why people don't have it work for them the first time around, is because 1, they don't know that they need to keep doing it for a few months. And 2, they don't know that they need to check in with it regularly. So if you're not checking in with your budget regularly, you just make it, but you don't actually go back and put your expenses in that you actually spent, then the budget, of course, is not going to work for you. So you have to check in with it regularly and you have to try it out for at least 3 months in a row. There are multiple different ways to make a budget. You have in paper, you just writing it down, you have Excel forms, you have online platforms, you have extra apps and things you can put on your phone. So there's multiple different ways that people can make a budget, and they can do it individually, they can do it off of a template. I do have a template in Google Sheets if you want to give that one a try. I will leave that link down in the description box for you. Sometimes if it's not working for you, it isn't due to lack of not trying long enough. Sometimes it's due to the form that you make it take, whether that's a paper form or electronic version or a mobile app. Not all versions work for the same type of people. So if you're trying to write it on paper and you find that you lose the paper and you forget to check it, it oftentimes doesn't work because obviously you don't know what your budget is. You weren't keeping track of your expenses during the month. But maybe if you had it on a mobile device, maybe you would actually remember to check it and you would see it and you wouldn't lose it because it would be right there on your phone. The key thing here is to experiment. If you're having trouble and you've had trouble in the past where you couldn't get a budget to work for you, you need to experiment, you need to check in with it, and you need to figure out which form works for you, as well as try it long enough. Try it for at least 3 months in order to get the hang of it and figure out exactly how much you're spending and adjust the categories as you go. And I promise you it will work for you in the future if you can find the right combination of factors that makes it work best for you. Excuse number 3 is that you don't need a budget because you have it all up here. You have it all in your mind, so there's no reason why you should start a budget if you've already understand all of it. You can see your bank statements and you don't need anything extra. You can see that you have income, you can see that you have expenses, you can monitor it, you can go, okay, you know what, I can't spend over what's in my bank. So why would I write down a budget if I can already calculate that in my head and I can already see that on my bank statements? Because it is easy to go over, and this was something that I did myself. This was my excuse because I thought I had it all down in my head and I was watching the bank account and stuff, but there's only so much of that you can do, especially when there's 2 people working together as a couple, a married couple. That becomes a lot harder because, you know, my husband would spend something that I wasn't expecting and it wouldn't mesh well together. Something we had to do is we had to write down a budget together so that he knew when he could spend money, and it didn't matter whether he spent money because I knew it was coming because it was within the budget. And even if you are a single person, you still need a budget. You can forget about an automatic payment that's coming out, and you can budget in there, and you can look in there and you could say, well, I have some leftover money, it's okay, I can go out and buy this thing because I want to. And you go out and buy that thinking you have the money, and then a couple days later an automatic payment comes out for that amount, and then all of a sudden you're overdrafted in your bank. So that's a big reason why you don't want to try to calculate it all in your head, and you can't really calculate everything. Not to mention, it's really hard to reach your goals if you're calculating in your head, because you can't write down specifically, I want to save this much, or I want to pay this much extra towards debt, or whatever the case may be. You can't do that all in your head, especially when we've got so many things like automatic payments coming out now. So definitely need to write down a budget. It may be hard, it may be like hard at first, I should say. It's not hard once you get into it, because right now, the way I am right now, I've been doing this since April 2020. First couple of months were hard and difficult, but after I got through the first 3 months, I was able to move past it, and everything has been going smoothly since then because I'm able to work off of my previous budget. I've gotten everything kind of nailed down, and I've kind of got the prices and the numbers right now. I went for years thinking I had it all in my head, but obviously I didn't, because it still took me 3 months of budgeting before I actually got down the real numbers, because the numbers that were in my head were like way less than the numbers that were actually on paper. And so it still is very important that you write down a budget. We need to make sure that we lift ourselves up and get ourselves out of these excuses for the betterment of our future, so that we can stop living paycheck to paycheck, so that we can have financial stability with savings and being debt free and everything in between. Be sure to hit like on this video if you enjoyed this content, and also subscribe and hit the notification bell so you can get notified when another one of my videos comes out. Leave me a comment down below. Let me know which one of these 3 excuses have you been using when it comes to starting your first budget. Have you been not being able to start a budget because you don't know how? Have you not started it because you tried in the past and it didn't work? Or do you think you have all the numbers memorized in your head so you don't really need a written down budget? Just let me know. Obviously, the third one was my excuse for the longest of time. So I hope to chat with you below, and I'll see you in the next video. I've been using that other excuse, which, what one's that? I don't even remember. The bank statement. Your bank statement.